I'm going to keep this fairly short. You'll see a number of slides, and there's a lot more slides that are interesting than ones I'm going to show you. But this will tell you a little bit about Jaspersoft and our particular focus. So for those of you familiar with the business intelligence space, there are a ton of companies out there. And so, what is it that Jaspersoft does differently? What makes us unique, and what's the sort of value add that we provide that's different from what else you'll find in the market? And we talk about this under the guise of the intelligence inside. So I'll start with the reason that we're around, and it's really fundamentally to address this problem. Clearly, it's an understatement to say we live in a world where companies compete, organizations compete on time and information. And if you're familiar with the industry, you'll know that we are spending a huge amount of money on business intelligence. According to IDC, we spent $34 billion in 2012. It's also a huge focus for CIOs. Gartner runs a survey every year of CIOs across the world. Last year, I think there were 3,300 CIOs participated. And business intelligence, again, was the #1 technology concern. And that's probably been the #1 3 out of the last 5 years. So there's a lot of attention around analytics in the world of where data is profile, it continues to grow. Big data is one of those phenomena that is elevating the importance and the focus on data. And in spite of the spend, in spite of the focus of CIOs, today there's another industry statistic that has pretty much stayed stagnant over the last few years, and that is only about a quarter of information workers actually get access today to business intelligence. And that number, as I said, has been stagnant for the last few years. So what's the problem? Why is it that in spite of the spend, in spite of the focus, we're stuck at 25%? And there are a number of reasons. Certainly the usability of business intelligence products has not been really suitable to go beyond a small group. And visualization, data visualization is helping expand that. But fundamentally, and if you think of how you spend your day, and this goes for me and for a lot of the folks at Jaspersoft, and we work at a BI company, how many of you spend a large percentage of your day working in a BI tool? I think you'll find that if you're a typical information worker, there's very few of you that will spend a lot of time inside a BI tool, because you already have your preferred application. Right? If you're a sales guy, it's a CRM tool. If you're marketing, it's marketing automation. If you're back office, it's an ERP, productivity suite, and the list goes on. So the fundamental problem is that most business users do not spend their time in a BI tool, and guess what? They don't want to. Right? So the solution, pretty simple, is instead of expecting the users to go and find the information that's relevant to them, find that report or that dashboard, why not bring it to them inside the applications where they actually spend their day? Kind of novel idea. This would fundamentally change the way that we think and use business intelligence, because if you listen to Gartner, they started talking about it this year, and when Gartner starts talking about something, it's becoming mainstream. That the only way to get to pervasive BI is to make BI essentially invisible to the end user. And what I mean by invisible is until they don't realize they're using BI, until then we won't get to pervasive BI. Right? It's a part of the application that they use every day. They're not thinking they're using BI, but it's there inside the application that they use. And so there are a number of examples that you probably run into every day. Some of these are Jaspersoft customers. So McGraw-Hill uses inside an application to help students if they want to kind of see how they would do potentially getting into some of the different schools available across the country. They can plug in their data and they can get a result, and that's powered by Jaspersoft. Jagex is the largest online gaming company in the UK. Uses Jaspersoft on top of Hadoop to power the dashboards inside the application, so the gamers get real-time data on how they're performing relative to their peers. And then FedEx, as you know, if you want to track your package, delivery, you can go in and you can get some basic data on what's happening to your parcel. So these examples are there today, but the reality is that the vast majority of applications today do not have BI. They might have a chart, maybe a table, but there's no intelligence there, right? There's no ability to kind of self-serve, create your own visualizations, merge data from different sources, all easily from within the application. It's very basic, static display. There's no, as I said, engine or intelligence there. And the reason behind that, and this is the Gartner quote that I talked about, we need to get to a point where BI becomes pervasive inside other applications. The reasons that it's not happening more today, and that 95% of applications, if I had to guess, don't have BI, is because of these 4 barriers. Essentially boils down to cost and complexity. And these are really substantial barriers. From a cost perspective, you know, I've been in the BI space for nearly 2 decades, and I work for one of the largest BI companies, not the largest BI company in the market. And you know, it was a very successful company. And because BI projects are expensive, you know, tens to hundreds to millions of dollars to deploy BI, and again, to a small portion of your organization. And that, if you're an early stage application, whether it be an in-house application you're building, or whether it be a commercial application, you know, these sorts of dollar amounts are just impossible to conceive, right? You're not going to sign up for a big contract when you don't know how many users of your application you're ultimately going to have. And so, you know, as I said, most people default to a reporting library or a charting library, and Jaspersoft knows that very well because our Java reporting library, Jasper Reports, is the most popular reporting library on the market. Then we come to complexity. There's 3 levels of complexity: complexity to deploy, to use, and to embed. And BI is hard to deploy, right? It's a server, data is tough, and so to get this rolled out is hard. And even though you know, the audience, sort of developers, are technical in nature, it's not the technology that's a problem, it's just the understanding of data. And it's a hard thing to do. And so it really isn't seen, the effort is not seen as worth it. In terms of the complexity to use, the tools are tough to use. Not only for developers who want to build reports, but also for the end users. If you're going to expose functionalities for your application to the end user, you're going to want to make sure it's easy and intuitive to use, so there's not a lot of training that needs to go with it. And lastly, but very importantly, these BI tools that exist, sort of the market leaders today, were not conceived to be embedded. As I said, BI is fundamentally a standalone, offline application today, where you've got a data warehouse, you've got a bunch of reports and dashboards, and you've got your analysts doing maybe some ad hoc queries, and those reports and dashboards get sent out to different users. That's the BI paradigm today. And what we're saying is that needs to be inside an application, and so clearly the ability to embed is primordial. And BI servers, applications today that exist, were not conceived to be embedded. So what we're seeing though now is we're seeing the growth in embedded. And this is my version of history of embedded, because it's been around for a while in some form or other. And I'll hark all the way back to the days of SAP R3 embedding crystal reports. And you're familiar with that kind of in the 90s, static reports, client-server architecture, it was embedded library, proprietary code, right? That was kind of the beginning. And then the second generation, which is kind of where embedded BI really is today, we're moving to more interactivity, so we've got interactive dashboards inside an application. The architecture is mostly web-based. We're using web services, primarily we're using SOAP and then iframe to embed, and mostly relational data on the back end. And this is where the open source model started to emerge. And so Jaspersoft has had a lot of success in that kind of second generation. But where the market is moving is to the third generation. And it's no longer sufficient just to have an interactive dashboard, because users are becoming more sophisticated with data, and they want to ask their own questions. So you need to be able to give the users inside an application the ability to ask their own questions. And so the idea of self-service is very important. The architecture is predominantly moving to cloud. And the interfaces that are emerging as the preferred APIs are REST and JavaScript. REST on the back end and JavaScript on the client side. We're no longer dealing just with relational data. Big data stores of many flavors are emerging: Mongo, Cassandra, Hadoop, and then the analytic data stores like Redshift, and we'll talk about that later, are emerging as much more common platforms to deal with large volumes of data because of their cost-effective nature and their scalability. So, what Jaspersoft does is we focus on this third generation, and I'll give you some examples in our product of how we're doing this today. And fundamentally, in order to solve these four problems, I've got as a high level the solutions here. So from a cost perspective, we're really fundamentally talking about usage-based pricing. So you pay for what you use. And we'll talk about what Jaspersoft does for that in a minute, but we're not asking you to sign up and a large proprietary perpetual license when you have no idea what your usage is going to be a few years from now. Deployment, we're looking at the cloud as fundamentally the simplest way to deploy BI today. It takes away all of the complexity of deploying storage, the hardware, the software, all pre-configured and easy for you to use. And then the platform, as I said, needs to provide this level of self-service that's suitable for any user, right? So different users have different requirements when it comes to self-service. And we'll talk a little bit about what Jaspersoft is doing there. And then embedding. Fundamentally, what we want to be able to do is to make it as easy to embed a full BI user experience as it is to embed a YouTube video on a website. Okay. So this is what Jaspersoft does every day. We're really advancing the market of embedded. That is our focus and our differentiation. So when you look at the BI market at large, Jaspersoft is the clear leader in embedded analytics. And one of the BI industry's most noted analysts has talked about this third generation of embedded BI. And as you see here, is noted as Jaspersoft as one of the few that's actually started to focus on this. So we like to think differently. We don't think of BI in the traditional way that most vendors think of BI. We think of it from the inside out, as opposed to as a separate activity. So we provide a complete BI platform, and it is 100% web standards. In order to be embeddable, we need to have something that runs anywhere and runs in any application. And so backend, Java, front-end, JavaScript, HTML5, and then a very extensive set of APIs that allow you to easily embed. And inside the stack, we have, at the lower end, connectivity to pretty much any data that you can conceive of. And if we don't have it, you can build a connectivity yourself because we have an extensible connector framework. We allow you to integrate data either through traditional ETL, data integration, or through data virtualization, data blending, data federation, sort of same terms different terms for the same thing, which is taking data from multiple sources without moving the data and merging it. We have a business metadata layer to sort of hide the complexity of the underlying data for the end users. And then we have a columnar-based in-memory engine that allows you to do data manipulation on the server. And then we expose reporting, dashboards, data visualizations, and exploration, OLAP analysis, all through this framework. And you'll see that in action shortly when Asaf comes up here and does the demo. So when it comes to, I'll go through, kind of touch on what we're doing from to solve the problems that I talked about for this third generation, which is cost and these 3 levels of complexity. So from a cost perspective, Jaspersoft offers you the most flexible way to deploy and buy your software. So unlike a number of other vendors, there's no user-based pricing in Jaspersoft. You pay for what you use. So either you can decide that to be a core-based license, or recently we introduced on the AWS Marketplace an hourly-based license where you can buy Jaspersoft by the hour, our building and deploying in the cloud. As I mentioned, we launched about 9 months ago on the AWS Marketplace, and that has become a great partnership for us and a great way for our customers to purchase Jaspersoft. You can either bring a license that we've provided to you, or as I've mentioned, you can buy it by the hour. And then that self-service component, and you'll see this better in the demo, but that self-service component is really important to us so that we provide self-service, whether it be an interactive report, like this one that you see here, that can also be printed and exported and sent out, to an interactive dashboard that would be maybe more suitable to an executive, to data visualizations, which are suitable for the data analysts or the data geeks who want to actually get at the data directly. And all of this is available through the same UI, through the same server, on the same architecture, and access to all the data that we have access to today, traditional and big data. And then the end result is, I said, we need to make all of that capability available inside other applications. And so Jaspersoft makes it extremely easy to embed inside other applications. Our customers today either take our server and they reskin it through CSS and make it look like their application, and it becomes simply a tab in their application. Or they use REST and they integrate our data, our list of reports, or reports through REST APIs. We're also introducing now a new JavaScript framework, which is currently in private beta, which will allow you to take different components of our server and integrate those interactive modules and essentially build your own BI application inside your application through these high-level JavaScript method calls. So really revolution for the BI space, because there's no one else that's doing this. And if you're interested in learning more, you can talk to me about it. And of course, if you want to try it out, we can also arrange for you to be a beta tester. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about different use cases here. You see Illuminate there on the right, and Mark will come up here later and talk about how they've embedded Jaspersoft inside their application. But we do this today for about 130,000 applications in production. So we have tens of thousands of customers doing this, exposing Jaspersoft to their users, to millions of users every day who use Jaspersoft and often don't realize it. So a couple of examples here. Red Hat embeds this inside their enterprise virtualization platform, so the DevOps teams can use Jaspersoft to monitor and also look at the performance of their virtual deployments over time. Verizon uses it. For a Verizon customer, you're probably getting bills from Jaspersoft, or in their customer portal you can see your billing information provided by Jaspersoft. Virgin Money, many of our customers today are cloud-based applications. Virgin Money has a really nice application, multi-tenant application, that they expose to charitable organizations that use this application to manage fundraising. And all the reporting and dashboards inside that application are provided by Jaspersoft. Internal applications like the Naval Safety Center uses this inside to monitor the safety incidents and help improve upon the safety incidents inside the US Navy. And then we're increasingly seeing big data, as I said, as a back end to many of the applications being built. Groupon uses this for a campaign analytics solution on Hadoop. So the benefits of embedded BI, we're starting to see analysts are trying to quantify the benefits here. Aberdeen was one of the first that have started to do that. But it basically kind of boils down to these three things. Ultimately, it's more productive business users. So whether it's internal users who are finding the reports and dashboards inside the internal applications that they're using every day, or if you've got a commercial application that you're building, your end users are going to be more productive. Again, because you're providing data that's helping them to make decisions at the point that they are in the business process, without them having to leave the application, leave the context, and go and find that person or that report that's relevant to them. It makes for more successful BI rollouts. One of the hardest things in getting BI right inside an organization is user adoption. And the reason user adoption is hard is in traditional BI deployments, you're trying to get them to use a new tool. And if anyone's ever tried to do that at scale inside an organization, you know it's nearly impossible to change the way people work every day. So instead, think about bringing it inside the application rather than a separate application. And then it's becoming a competitive differentiator. If you're an application or a service provider today, visualizations, the data that you provide to the users of the application is a way that you're going to differentiate from your competition. It's a way that you're going to get greater customer and user satisfaction. As a result, to sum it up, Jaspersoft has done extremely well. We're a rapid growth, early stage company, I would say. We're probably beyond the really early stage startup phase. A couple of hundred people. We're headquartered here in beautiful San Francisco. And we have a very large community. So over 16 million lifetime product downloads, 350, probably approaching 400,000 community members. And as I mentioned, we're embedded in about 130,000 applications in production today. And we get many awards. I like this one because we were, of the 50 or so technology providers that Information World awarded this Technology Year Award to, Jaspersoft was the only BI player, and some of our co-winners were the iPad Mini, Hadoop, and HTML5, so a pretty good company for a BI tool. If you want to learn more about embedded, as I said, Jaspersoft is focused on embedded. We have a really great resource center on our website, both for business users to learn about, why would you embed BI. For product managers, it's often a very relevant discussion. How do you justify purchasing a BI tool? This helps you. Or if you're a technical user, there is very in-depth tutorials on how to embed BI. And of course, more specifically, if you were interested in Jaspersoft, how you would embed Jaspersoft. But it's a great, whether or not you decide to ultimately go with Jaspersoft, is a really, really good resource center that we've invested a lot in. And one of the examples I show here, which is this 50-page workbook, which kind of works you step by step how you justify and go about embedding business intelligence. So I think, yes, that's my last slide. So I will be back later on. I'm going to tag team with Bhavik at AWS, and we'll talk about what we're doing more specifically in the cloud and how we're integrating. But for now, I'm going to pass you on to perhaps the best part of the presentation of today. No pressure, Asaf. He's going to show you the product, because I think the product really speaks for itself. So with that, thank you all, and I'll see you later.